Hi, hello, welcome to another video from me, this tutor, and today we're looking at AQA's topic, Conflict and Tension, 1894 to 1918, and we're going to look at the Russian Revolution and its impact on World War One. Right, so in this lesson we're going to have a bit of a quiz in a minute. How much do we know about the Russian Revolution and its impact on the war? And then we're going to look at the write an account question, which can be a little bit challenging, especially if the words write an account make you think about a story rather than maybe the argument making we need to do. So firstly though, let's go to the quiz. So here we are with our quiz, and this time the quiz is a crossword, something a little bit different. So this is in your revision guide for those people with my revision guide. For those people without, I'll talk about that in a minute, and you can find out more about the services that I offer to help you in your history GCSE. So have a look at the crossword. You've got the clues there, and you obviously the matching of them helps you answer the other questions. So use your revision notes in the booklet. They're all there. All the answers are there. So pause me and have a go at this little activity, and then I'll show you the answers. Okay, so here are the answers then. So we are looking at one down is the telegram sent to Mexico from the Germans asking them to invade the USA. It's the Zimmermann telegram. So a little bit about USA in the war there. Then looking at the down ones again. So two down, name the ship that ended the German U-boat campaign, the Lusitania. And then number four, name the Russian general who led the big offensive of 1916. That should be Brusilov. So now on to some more Russian ones. So three across, name the first big Russian defeat of August 1914. Got the Battle of Tannenberg, followed by the Battle of Masurian Lakes. Five, he was brought in. He was thought to be controlling the Tsar arena and Russia. Well, that I didn't even look. That's Rasputin, isn't it? So number six, the month in the European calendar, the first Russian Revolution. So February, because Europe and Russia had slightly different calendars to why I've written European calendar. Leader of the Bolsheviks and the October Revolution. You should find Lenin there. And number eight, led an attempted coup to take over control of Russia in August 1917. So Kornilov. Okay, so hopefully you know where it's on. So if you don't, have a look back through the America page and the Russia page, start to think about the Americans joining the war and Russia leaving the war. They are sort of slightly interlinked, and you can use them in your answer day to help explain your sort of wider ideas. So as mentioned earlier, I do have lots and lots of revision guides and lots of help I can offer. Obviously, you're looking at a video here from one of my revision guides. There are about 12 to 15 videos explaining answers to a top level in my revision guide. It's also packed full of revision cards and revision notes. I also offer other revision booklets, all available on Amazon. Follow in the link beneath to find out more. Also, I do have a website, thehistorytutor.co.uk, where I provide revision guides, of course, more videos, and one-to-one help if you want to contact me for help in a one-to-one or small group way. Okay, so now back to the lesson now. So just a brief reminder of what a write an account question requires you to do. So it requires you to think about really explaining an event and then linking it to its consequence, its impact. So this question perfectly sums it up. There's the Russian Revolution, talk about an event, and then explain the impact on the First World War. Pick another part of the Russian Revolution story, and explain its impact on the First World War. So we're not writing a big story, like write an account might suggest. We are writing event and effect. Event and effect. That is the skill we're doing here. So we can still do this in a P or Peel paragraph. So now let's plan some of these ideas. So you can have a think now, what are the main events of the Russian Revolution? And you could think revolutions, if you like. There are two in 1917. And how do those events impact the war? So think about an event and then put an impact. So plan now, pause me, and sort of get your ideas together. You can think of two or three, and you can probably then combine them together to make some really good answers. So away you go. Okay, got your ideas? So we're ready to move on. So here we go. So events of the revolution that I've chosen, you might have other ones, is obviously the February Revolution 1917, remove the Tsars and set up a new democratic government. That's pretty important. Then there's an October Revolution where Lenin takes power. And then we have in the spring of 1918, the Germans are only fighting on one front because Lenin has taken Russia out of the war. So those are some key events. So here's the impacts then. The Russians continued in the war, of course, after the First Revolution. However, there was less support for this. One of the reasons why the Tsars obviously lost power was the war, so people weren't massively supportive of it. And when they did a big offensive in July 1917, there were big protests across the major cities of Russia. That led to the October Revolution, where Lenin took control, and Lenin did not want to be in the war, as I stated. So this led to the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, and Russia left the war. Germany gained Ukraine and Poland and all their food and supplies, and the two-front war was ended. So Germany now was only on one front. So this meant they could lead the spring offensive. So Ludendorff planned a final huge offensive for the German army to try and win the war before the USA arrived in force and to try and do one final knockout blow. Obviously, it's a bit of a gamble here because if Ludendorff offensive didn't win, Germany might have been all out of puff and the war would be over. So got a strange scenario where Russia leading the war could have actually helped somehow the Allies win the war. So onwards to an answer then. So we write in this P style still. So one way that Russian Revolution impacted the war was we give our argument, we give an example. So for example, we pick an event from the Russian Revolution, we explain this impacted the war because, and then we try and do a further idea. So hopefully you've got your plans. So now use your plans to come up with your idea. So we want to start with the early event first. We want to start with the first Russian Revolution, explain that, and then maybe the second paragraph is about leaving the war and how that impacts the actual war itself. So what would be a good starting sentence? Have a think, look at your plan, jot down a first starting sentence then. Make a point, use because to explain an impact. Over to you. Okay, got an idea? If you pause me, got an idea? So here's a good starter that I've come up with. So one way the Russian Revolution impacted the war was that the Russian Revolution has led to less support for the war in Russia. Okay, so the people didn't really support the war so much. Right, so what's an example of that? Have a look through your notes again. What event shows that? Okay, over to you. Pause and give it a go. Right, so here's my idea. So for example, the February Revolution, the people in the cities suffered from a lack of food and protested about the war. You might have also talked about July events, of course, that'd be great. A good example is all that's needed, a month, part of the year, an event, that's all we really need. Doesn't matter if it's different to mine. So now explain the impact. This impacted the war because. So can you think about a consequence of the war? Okay, give an idea, right? So over to you. All right, so here's my idea. So this impacted the war because after July 1917, there was a major protest in Russia called July Days. After the Russians gave less support to the war effort, and the army was in chaos with many mutinies. Okay, so the Kornilov rebellion might show that. It might be a really good idea. You could talk a little bit about how the Bolsheviks have started to infiltrate the army and there's more desertions, if you know your knowledge of that really well. Perhaps if you're doing the Russia depth study, you might know some of those details. So now for furthermore, can you explain another idea? Okay, have a think. How else is this impacting the war? Maybe some of the ideas I just said then could be a furthermore. Okay, over to you. Pause and give it a go. Right, so here we are. Here's my idea. So furthermore, this meant the German army could concentrate its army in other areas. Particularly in November 1917, they attacked the Italians at the Battle of Caporetto and almost knocked Italy out of the war. Okay, so Russia's not really attacking, and Russia being a bit chaotic means that Germany can put fewer soldiers on the Eastern Front and they can start concentrating on the Italians. Now, so if you looked at your wider world page in your revision guide, you would find some ideas about that. That's quite a wider idea, sort of quite a complicated idea to put that one there, but that gives you an idea of the type of things you could start saying as a wider link. Definitely wider ideas are further afield than just Russia. Maybe it's about the Americans had to hurry up to join the war because Russia were a bit chaotic. You could have put something about that. Okay, on to the next paragraph. So now Russia's had in our story of the previous one, we're sort of up to, July Days and beyond. So now we're thinking maybe the Bolshevik Revolution and Russia leaving the war. So how does that impact the war? We can get much more out of this now with the October Revolution and Russia leaving the war. So think about that now as a paragraph. I'm not going to go through it stage by stage. I'm going to show you an example paragraph in a minute. Have a think about the later set of events, the Russian Revolution, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, how that impacts the war. Okay, think widely. Maybe you could talk about America being more important now as they join. Okay, so over to you. Pause me and write your paragraph. Okay, so here's what I've written. So another way that the Russian Revolution impacted the war was, of course, through the October Revolution. And then the evidence could be, of course, that the Russian leader Lenin wants to leave the war and signs the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. And as we put in our plan, the Germans gain Poland, Ukraine, gain reparations, food supplies from Russia. Of course, this impacted the war because potentially you could argue, if you want, might be a slight stretch, potentially you could argue that this might have made the British naval blockade less threatening because trade routes and food were now coming from the east. And then you could say, furthermore, in your link, it also meant an end to Germany being encircled and fighting on two fronts, of course. So hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the east could now move to the Western Front and try and have the big spring offensive to try and win the war before the USA arrived in force. So this was almost a success, of course, but eventually it exhausted that German army, removed all its best, most experienced soldiers, and the Allied counterattack was a great success. So you can sort of make a stretch that the Russian Revolution led to the gamble of the Ludendorff offensive, the spring offensive, and the defeat of Germany, if you so wish. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful. And if you want more of those videos, then obviously look towards my website, my revision guide. You can find information about that in the links and in the comments to this video. And do look out for also more videos. I do have lots of free ones for you to look at as well. So anyway, bye-bye for now.